One, two, three, one, two, three, and the place to be. It's your player partners from the bottom of the map.
From the bottom of the map.
It's your dog Real.
I Hayes.
As always, you know, jump in, tap in with us. Hit that like, subscribe, share. Tell a friend, to tell your big booty, bow-legged auntie them. This your player partners, and we in here, man. Let's go ahead and jump to it, man. I'm gonna let you go off because
Yeah, let me go off real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and start, man.
Yeah,
Hey,
go ahead. But Mike got that win.
I
Go ahead.
think both of us
You're
told
not
you.
gonna like what I got to say.
Oh yeah. I already know. And we're gonna defer a little bit. I kind of stated when I got up here, I thought we would win the game. You know what I'm saying? I was right about that. UM actually is pretty good in openers. When you look at their track record, they tend to win the first game of the season. That's not just true for Mario. That's just true, period. So I was right on that. I do have to understand, though, that every major site was giving it to Notre Dame. That was the general consensus. So we don't want to let other people get away with that. Because if you really wasn't a UM fan or you wasn't Lee Corso or you weren't out of four people, one person would go with UM. So definitely the underdog. And I don't know. I think things typically went how I thought they would win. I felt like UM would be winning, but I also felt like they would get conservative. I'm no longer what I did come to the fact is that the conservativeness is not Shannon Dawson. While I still think that Shannon Dawson is a little questionable, what I'm starting to realize is that Mario, he gets a signal from Mario to go conservative, and he does exactly what his boss tells him to do. Because when UM starts to get conservative and they're running the same plays every time, you start to realize, like, damn, okay, he like to run the same plays, but not 3 times in a row and not back-to-back series. That's Mario. And I'm just like, damn, so Mario really, okay, so it's an ego thing. Like, he has it. So when victory is in hand, he wants to go conservative. And if he loses, he'll just take the heat for it. And I just think that that's something that you're just going to have to expect. I think that, when it gets down to it, Mario will always have questionable decision making. So it is what it is. I think that he's going to be the coach at Miami at this point for a very long time. So if you hate Mario or you don't like him or whatever it is, or you realize that's going to hold us back, you're going to have to get used to it. High points. I definitely felt like the defense improved. And I felt like they would, though. This is not a real test. When they did get the ball in space, there was a lot of missed tackles, but there were also a lot of made tackles. The line did a good job, but it wasn't great, right? Like the 2 sacks that they got at the end of the game, they probably could have got that before the game, and that's not even coaching. Like, at the end of the day, I think the coach going to put you in positions, but the line going to get sacks when they want to get sacks, and I guess it's one of those things where it's like when they absolutely have to have them. Obviously, for me, I was impressed with the receivers. Malachi Tony, most yards since a freshman since 2000 record. No other freshman had that. He started to get off so bad. People don't know this, but Notre Dame has a secondary that's going to go in the first round. So one thing I will say is that our receiver, Malachi Tony, was matched up against the number 1 receiver that's on people's draft boards right now. So that's the best DB that's in college football right now. And most of the fans noticed he actually got separation, but he was holding him. But he held them throughout the goddamn game. At first, it was kind of slick, but toward the end, he was blatantly holding him, and he kind of got a little frustrated with it. And if you look, and I started to go back and look at the tape, he held him on every play. When he couldn't hold him, I just think that he wasn't prepared for that, and he didn't want to look bad. So I can tell, one of their DBs got, injured, and then they moved him on Malachi, but he really couldn't hold him. And I did think that was a point that most UM fans will see. And no one's really talking about that. But I was like, yeah, their DBs held most of our receivers a majority of the snaps. First, they did it slick, but toward the end of the game, they didn't get in care, and it just wasn't called. One thing I like about the receivers is that when it was blatant, they had to say something, but they didn't let it get in their head, and they ran their routes. But had they not been doing that, that game would have went worse than what it was. Also, I felt like Carson Beck didn't do a bad job. I do think, though, I like that one-handed catch. That wasn't the best throw to me. I think that if the receiver doesn't go for that ball or doesn't catch it, that's an interception. I think we always see that. But nevertheless, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, for me, this game wasn't going to be a test of the season. Even if we lost, I was like, we're going to make it close. I felt like Inez Cooper, there was a couple of times where he was drawing too much, but still, he didn't do a bad job. And like I said, he's been at UM for a little minute. And so, all in all, I felt like minus the conservative move from Mario and a couple of little things here and there, obviously I felt like the play calling could be better because I know loves to run up the middle, and Red Lashley likes to run up the middle, right? And I also understand that if you want to pass, you have to throw. And that was our big critique with Red Lashley. And Red Lashley has not started running up the middle. Whether he gets it or not, when you watch SMU, they're going to run up the middle. The only difference is that when they can't run up the middle, they get one of their running back in space. They were using Brashard like that. I would like to have seen at the beginning of the game they had Lyles, and I love Lyles, but I was like, no, you're trying to run up the middle, you can't run with him. And they quickly went to Fletcher because Fletcher and Brown had a little bit more success. I would have liked to see what Notre Dame did with Jeremiah Love, getting him in space. I would like to have seen that more. They did a little bit. I think Mark Fletcher did have a little baby pass, but I felt like when running up the middle isn't going to work, rolling the running back out would have been doper. I think that would have been something that I would have done. And like I said, I wasn't really seeing that. And like I said, but those are critiques that is not going to change. Mario wants to run in the tackles. Therefore, Shannon Dawson has to run in the tackles. So a lot of my critiques are about Mario, but Mario is never going to change. And now that he's won, you're not going to be able to tell him anything. So if you don't like the running up the middle that doesn't work, that's Mario. If you don't like the conservative work, that's Mario. Mario is not going to change. So for me, I just got to look at the high points because is always going to have a ceiling. If we had a better coach, then the play calling, our offensive coordinator would not be shackled. He would actually be able to do better. And I probably owe Shannon a bit of an apology because when I was looking at the play calling and I was looking at certain things, I'm like, that's because Mario is trying to put his fingerprints on things, and that's him. Though he was never an offensive coordinator, he was never a running backs coach, right? He's only an offensive line. But we are always going to be handicapped. And, we actually, all of us saw a certain other team in North Florida that whooped ass. And we see that they don't get conservative, right? We saw that they're going to put the pedal to the metal, and we have to play them in a couple of weeks. So our true test is going to be Florida State. Our true test is probably going to be USF. Teams that are actually, you know what I'm saying, that they know it's already a rivalry, and they're not going to take the foot off the gas. But all in all, I'm going to enjoy the victory, but I knew it was going to come. And the only thing I'm not surprised about the play calling. The only thing I'm surprised about is how good our receivers were against one of the best secondaries in the country. And as I said, they had to hold those receivers. I do feel like when we play other people, those receivers are going to get off the most. Also, besides having the most yards for a freshman since 2000, he's going to be on a lot of people's watch list. And I think that was just a dope performance by somebody who actually is supposed to be in the 12th grade right now because they reclassified. So he really reclassified to become a senior. Our best talent, I love Miami to death, but our best talent is coming out of Fort Lauderdale right now. Fort Lauderdale and the whole Broward County. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are really producing receivers. They're you know what I'm saying, across the board. Not even just receivers, bro. Like I said, a lot of our DBs, a lot of our O-line, like not even O-line, but D-line. A lot of those boys are really coming up from Broward. So, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to them. That's all I got.
I almost want to hit you with a Lee Corso. Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. Let's slow down before we break out. You know what I'm saying? This, I guess, this is my takeaway. Before the game, I just said I wanted to see what Miami's identity was going to be. Right? This was going to be an interesting game because you're going up against a Notre Dame team that's really built on defense and running the ball, and then they have solid quarterback play, but you're also starting basically a first-time starter in a big game. So this is going to be a game where turnovers and like who dominated the line of scrimmage was basically going to probably dictate the game because that's what Notre Dame is. That's what Notre Dame is, just like almost like a Big Ten team. They're going to play power football, don't turn the ball over, and get solid quarterback play. They don't rely on their quarterback to control the game. So I was really looking at, is Miami going to control, like we say, the trenches? Are they going to control their trenches? You look at our offensive line. We had a total of, let's see, 127 yards rushing, 3.4 yards a carry. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. Like, If this is supposed to be a part of the team's calling card, our offensive line, we're supposed to have this dominant, you know, seasoned offensive line at that. This is experience. That's not, doing those same play calls. I understand you got to run the throw, but they don't even have to they don't even have to stack the box. They're stopping the run off of using like a base defense. They're not bringing the safety down. It's just Miami play calling is so vanilla. You don't have to guess what they're going to do. We all see when they're lined up in the backfield in shotgun formation and they're going to run the ball exactly which way the ball is going to go. I think we've learned that last year. I think other coaches have learned that. So this isn't something they're going to be like. Miami has added a new wrinkle to the run game. They didn't. It's the same thing. And if your team isn't getting pushed and you're not moving the other team's defensive line, it's going to be 2nd and 8, 3rd and 6. Now you're putting yourself in a bad predicament, right? But then, all right, let's look at the other side. We had 2 sacks at the end of the game against the first-time starter. So, like, if our defensive line and our defense, our front seven, is supposed to be another one of our strong suits because we got all these starting, our secondary is basically all brand new other than Frederic. We're not getting pressure on their quarterback. They didn't have a great running game, but that's because they don't really have, like the first-time starter. So their passing game was real vanilla. It was real, like, their passing game was predictable, and they still had more yards than us. Still, they had more passing yards than we did. So I'm just looking at what's our team identity going to be? Like, what are we looking at going? Like, what are we looking at in the future? I wasn't so much concerned about this game. What I'm looking at is how is this team going to be structured moving forward? Because we're going to play against teams. USF is a dangerous team. All right, we've seen what Florida State did to Alabama. That was an ass whooping. Miami has to be locked in as a team on the front because like Malachi Tony, our receivers, they're gonna do what they do, right? And I feel like our secondary is getting a little bit better, even though they still missed some tackles and we had a busted coverage, but that wasn't on the secondary, that was on the linebackers. Moving forward, man, like we gotta control the line of scrimmage, and I didn't see that. And part of that was, the offensive line wasn't getting no push, they wasn't making no holes. And on the other side, other than Ruben Bain, you're really not calling nobody's name. You're not seeing nobody in the backfield every play. You're not seeing a bunch of tackles for loss. What you're seeing is Notre Dame still being able to move the ball slowly but surely. And I'm just like, where this great victory, right? This great victory, the play calling put us in a lot of bad predicaments. We got a turnover on a third, like a 34, 33, 32-yard line, ran 3 straight plays up the goal, up the gut, kicking the field goal, right? At the end of the game, we're relying on a kicker that isn't a proven kicker. He was 4 for 11 last year at FAU to kick a 47-yarder to win the game. This is what we relied on. We could have actually on third down, because it was like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 or something like that. We could have applied a little pressure, throw a tight end screen. How many catches did Elijah Lofton have? One. Elijah Lofton, just like all these great tight ends we've had, we're not using them. We're not getting our running backs out in space. The play calling, and maybe I have to look at it more, but it seems like what works in the first half, you've seen a lot of short passes, a lot of passes getting the receivers in space and letting them do what they do, right? They're catching the ball. You didn't see any drops. I would like to see more separation on the deep plays, but I'm satisfied with the receiver play.
They were holding a lot. They were holding a lot, though. They were grabbing back.
You don't have to deal with that. That's just part of playing ball. Like, it just is what it is. You just got to get off of that.
I think some of those though would get called in another game. I do feel like there was a bias when I watch Kansas City play. They get a lot of calls. Some of these they gave us a couple of calls, but for the most part, so when the game was almost out of hand, Notre Dame was getting calls that they shouldn't have got, and then they weren't calling everything. So that's my biggest thing. Is like it's cool, it's just football, but you can't make these calls over here and you're catching everything and you're not catching none of this. They did the shit the whole game.
Yeah.
Everybody seen it too, and it was blatant. That shit's getting called in.
Also, I think the biggest thing also is like the team is. I think when a team is locked in, the coaches are locked in. You don't let a team climb, and good teams climb back in, right? We've seen it. We've seen it last year when Georgia played Alabama. They was getting blowed out, and they climbed back into the game, right? So good teams climb back in, but what a great team does is you don't give that team no life. They scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. Notre
That's
Dame, like
Mario.
you giving CJ Carr now he has confidence. Their team has confidence. I think Miami had like 5 or 6 3-and-outs in a row. And they're
But
not
that's
moving
Mario.
the ball. They're not putting pressure because because you playing not to win. You're playing not to lose.
But he did
That
that
was
last year. He did that last year. He's not
and
gonna
that
change.
I'm saying I feel like this is going to be another year where we're going to have to figure out what is the team. Is the team going to be aggressive until
No.
we get a lead? We had a think about it, against Syracuse up 21-0. We end up losing that game.
Yes.
We needed to win that game to get to the ACC title game.
Needed to. And that right there solved to me, even though I love this team, I don't think Mario will ever change. I think and just a real talk, and I know this is kind of pessimistic. You got to get championship out your head. You got to think good to great. Anytime that the shit is on the line, he's not going to change because he wants to do things his way. He don't see nothing wrong. He won, right? So he's not going to look at that conservative play column and say, "Damn, that was close." When he's not going to change. Here's a man with an ego that wants to be more than what he is, and he makes too much money. So because he won, that's emboldening him. So he'll take 3 losses down the stretch, miss the playoffs again, and say, you know what? I know we need to be more aggressive, but I just want to play it the right way. He's not gonna change. So I feel like if you're because it's not about the team anymore, right? Like if Shannon Dawson, while I don't like all the play calling, I know he's a better play caller than that. So he's not gonna do series after series when you got what works for you. But Mario is a guy that he's telling him, hey, take your foot off the gas, more conservative. We're looking at him. I need more running. I want to slow it down. Mario's perfect idea is the second half where we used up 7. That's what he wants, right? He wants the perfect mix of throwing, but he really like when they ran that touchdown in the push, that's what Mario wants. So it's not necessarily about what we as the fans, what we as the football world, he don't care about none of that. He wants that what I'm telling you, that was his perfect drive. That's the football he wants to play. It doesn't matter that the runs, and it's not that they weren't efficient, but they could be more explosive because that's what Ewan's known for. No, he likes more of a Big Ten S with football athletes to where it's a slow churn, it's using up most of the clock. Mind you, Rutgers, you can throw a little bit, but he really wants to run more than he throws. And so the only time UM is going to get aggressive is when let's just say we were Indy, then he'll throw caution to the wind, then he'll be aggressive. But I think as long as this man is the Miami head coach, you asking who we are who Mario wants us to be. We play conservative when we get a lead. We make the right decisions. We don't take any chances. And I think you got to stop being optimistic on that. He's not going to change.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree, and I do think. I think
Everybody and their mama saw that. Everybody's talking about
I think if we look at Oregon, I think it was the same at Oregon. I think we just
was.
like you say, he never really been an OC, right? He's never been a running backs coach, never been a receiver coach. He's never been like an offensive mind. And it's almost just like, all right, if you're going to a la Norvell and Gus Malzahn, right? Okay, I'm hands off the offense. I'm gonna let you run the offense. And
Number one.
if I come in anywhere, it's for time management, clock management, timeouts, and maybe like challenging a play. But outside of that, you run the offense, right? And if you know what your talent is on the field, if we got burners everywhere, and we know that our running backs can catch the ball, right? So we can get them out in screens, shallow screens. We can get our tight ends out in screens. We can get in tight ends in space. Like, use the athletes that we have. I'm kind of almost like we're going to go back to this where we have all these athletes all over the place and we're getting underutilized because somebody wants to play, smash mouth football because he's an offensive line coach and he wants his calling card to be like my team dominates up front. But we've kind of seen like, I mean, as much as I kind of do, I want to say I like the offensive line, but they not really. I don't know if they're just.
I
It's
think
just
they're
not. It's
good,
just not
but
meshing like that. They don't create holes. They're not just pushing people down the field. It's just not happening.
I did see drives where they would run to that side, right? I think it's the right side is even the strength of our OC line, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, Inez Cooper over there, you got Maganawa, and I forget the other gentleman's name, and they are definitely probably going in the first round. So, but it's not every play, right? It's not every play because it was every play they would get there. So you do have runs where Mark Fletcher will get almost to the secondary and they'll take the safety to come and stop, but but the style that he really even when you look at the Big Ten, even somebody like Iowa, who all they do is run the ball, you're still not like to want to run. Like I don't know why he's so in love with this offense. You're still not necessarily. We would have to look at the numbers to see like, okay, who is getting 6 and 7 yards every single time? Because Notre Dame, I Jeremiah Love is hurt. Let's go ahead and say that he's not 100% because there's no way.
Darian Price, their other running back, has 7.5 yards per carry.
Yes. And they were still getting him. Sometimes they would throw him the ball. You know what I'm saying? They would get him in the backfield.
You also seen their explosiveness too.
I did. I'll give you them credit though, because I felt like if they could have been more explosive, they would have. We would have plays where we would miss it, but then they had a lot of plays where we were shutting that shit down. I
Yeah.
just don't think that they were running enough. And I have to think that Jeremiah Love was hurt. Because if it's me and I'm Notre Dame, this is the guy why I'm scoring points, right? They picked Carr. The other quarterback that they didn't pick went to Syracuse. And that's why I bet against Syracuse, because I was like, okay, I watched that dude's game. He can't throw the ball down the field. He only got one play, to throw it to the time when tight end is wide open. So they went with Carr, and we've seen that from Carr. Carr's going to get better. So all this flack about Carr looks better than Archie Manning, okay? Let's just start there. Not have to throw your first pass. Carr's going to be raw because Carr doesn't sweat under pressure.
Nah.
When he ran backwards and he still made the play, I looked at Friedman's eyes and he was like, yes, that's why I chose him, because of his ability. But when it got down to it, they really needed their star. We were looking for Jeremiah Love, and I think Miami was focused on stopping the run all day long. We actually really weren't thinking about the throw, but shout out to our DBs, even though they're going to get tested later. But I do think that UM did we have to pretty much say that the Corey Featherman is just way better than the last dude. The accountability is there. Is it elite? No. Will they get better? Hopefully. But
so I agree with that. I do think they'll get better. I did see some missed tackles once again. I think it's a thing where like they have to be accountable for wrapping up. They just keep like just hitting.
That's what it is. It just weren't wrapping up.
Yeah, they don't wrap, and I'm just like they don't understand. Like these are other, elite talent level football players. You just can't hit them. They got enough balance to where they're going to be able to keep running. They're going to run through those little tackles. You got to wrap, and even if you can't bring them down, you give at least chance for pursuit. That's another thing I want to speak on. I feel like Ruben Bain was the only one in pursuit of the quarterback. I really didn't see anybody else in the backfield. Even trying to. It was a couple plays here and there, but for the most part,
that one play too, especially where he ran down Carr.
Yeah.
Nobody was there with him. And had somebody else went with them, they would have caught him, and that would have never even been a touchdown.
And the DBs went to sleep on that. They went all the way
over because they want. And it's rule number one is the quarterback should, unless you're Michael Vick, you don't run backwards, right?
You don't run backwards.
But he broke the rules, did it, lost Buddy, and because there was only one player, he was able to catch them sleeping. But that you're exactly right. Why isn't the other? I don't know who the defensive line coach is. It escapes me right now, but for the talent that we have, because Ruben Bain, is he a 4-star or 5-star?
I don't know. I can't remember if he was a 4-star or 5-star.
I think he might be a 4, but he's one of them 4s that plays like 5. Do we still have? I haven't seen Blount. Armando Blount got out there?
No, I didn't see him. He's on the team though.
He's on the team, and I know he was a 5-star. We paid a lot of NIL money for that boy. He flip-flopped, so I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm starting to feel like the D-line coach is not getting the most because the sacks that they did, you sacked back to back like you could do it the whole game, like you knew you had to do it, so then you did it. And I'm like, bro, where is that during the game?
Not even like a lot of pressure because you just like, and I felt like they were in some plays I watched. I felt like they blitzed into the wrong area.
They did. I saw that.
Notre Dame was just catching them. I feel like, as a defensive coordinator for a first time starter, you just mix up. You drop defensive linemen. You do a lot of disguised coverages just to mess with the quarterback's head. And I feel like they didn't do a lot of that. Like they still, CJ Carr was still able to get off a lot of passes. And if you look at the funny thing is, if you look at him compared to Carson Beck, right, you'd be like, he had a solid game. And you look at Carson Beck, like Carson Beck did really well. His numbers was better than Carson Beck's.
I know, I heard that. Yeah,
Better than
he was
Carson
the
Beck's.
foot of the offense, though. He definitely was.
And,
The,
and the pick he threw, that was just basically like a rookie mistake. That was a rookie mistake.
yeah,
Um,
talk about though, and because we're gonna see this from Florida State, bruh. Little guy is not Riley, but the QB option that has always been our Achilles heel. I see that being a problem, bro, because when you miss tackles or you don't play contain and you have a running quarterback like we're gonna see with Florida State, or even somebody like USF. I'm like, this motherfucker's gonna be a problem, bro, because that little white boy slow as shit, bro. When you was watching TV, didn't that shit seem slow as hell? I'm like, bro, y'all done went to sleep. What's going on? This little man is running up the middle, bro. That was one of the keys to their offense. They was like, we can't get nothing else, bro. They're going to sleep on the quarterback running, and he was successful as hell with his legs. And I'm like, he ain't even built for that. And he took some hits, and I was like,
he
well,
did.
that
He took some
white boy
hits,
tough, bro.
and he's tough. Other thing I will say, you might not agree with this. I feel like I don't know. Some people may agree, some people may not agree. I feel like Jordan Lyle, as good as he is, I think he needs to work on just getting to the second level. He dances too much in the backfield for me. He's like, it's like he has these juke moves, but sometimes you really don't need to. You just need to get north and south until you get into a little bit of space, and then you use that wiggle. I feel like he dances, like he gets the ball, he kind of stutters a little bit, almost like a Le'Veon Bell. Like he stutters a little bit, and then but our offensive line isn't creating holes to where he can do a little dancing and then just burst through. He kind of has to. I feel like he needs to work on getting to the second level and then using that speed. I feel like he just
Our
dances
offense,
in the backfield too much. Like explode to the hole and then get out of there.
so for me, right, this game, I was surprised that he started. Because
I
listen,
was super surprised he started. I thought Mark Fletcher was going like, yo,
well,
what's
that's the
what's up
thing,
with
right?
Mark Fletcher?
So here's the thing, and I know I I don't know. I almost, even though Shannon Dawson is clearly our OC, I want to see the decision making at Houston, because when you know that coaches have been doing this shit for 20 and 22 years, right? And they make millions of dollars, you open yourself to scrutiny, but you want to use a lot of logic, right? Because I get the crazy fans who be talking stuff. We hear people all the time that don't really know football. Maybe they know betting, maybe they just know emotion, but they don't make logical sense, right? There's certain things that Mario and now that we see that Mario just doesn't make logic sense, and I know that his peers kind of laugh at him behind his back. Like I get that. Like only reason Miami say because we're Miami and we have these athletes. Bringing it back to Jordan Lyle. There was no reason for him to start this game, right? We still want to feel like ND got one of their best defenses. They just played for a national fucking championship with some of this defense. Now, are some of them going? Yes, but a lot of their offense is gone. That's still a lot of that defense. So I knew off rip, like, look, you try, which kills me too. I'm like, bro, we trying to run against the tackles, but I guess you know what I'm saying, we're betting on our line. I felt like Noah. I felt like Lyles is not an every down. I feel like he's more of a Christian McCaffrey. If I really want to go there, the man can catch passes. When he blew that run off last year, it wasn't between the tackles. He bounced it to the
Mhm.
outside, and they couldn't catch it. So to me, my thing is, okay, you want to run up the middle, up the middle. You know you can run to the left and to the right sides, but way out, right? Almost like a screen pass, but not right. And that's the problem too. Like you got him, you got Ray Joseph. To me, I want to see four reverses a game. One of them got the catch, right? Like I
Or,
want to be
or
able
even
to.
just the threat of a jet sweep or a reverse, like the threat of it wasn't even there, and the threat of Carson Beck pulling the ball and running was not
Yo, I
there at
said this
all.
the whole game. And when he did run, he looked good. I'm like, the man is not scared. He looked like that the whole time. Why are we not counter and running Carson Beck to get the third? They're not looking for it. And
They're
all we
not
got to
looking
do is
for it at
open up
all.
that threat. I got to feel like that's on Dawson too. And I'm like, damn, bro. So you mean to tell me that And the thing is, we're watching the game and we're getting in the same situation because this football ain't nothing but chess, right? I try to, you feel me? I have a series. Okay, this don't work. You have a series, you don't work. All we're trying to do is make sure that when we can freestyle on our first two downs, the third one, and when we're freestyling, we got to be smart. But we're trying to get a third down, right? You done homework, you study. You mean to tell me the threat of Carson Beck never entered because it had to never enter it because it wasn't on the play to use it because we're searching. But the fact you want to play conservative, right? You can't mix up conservative. You got to run 3 times, right? You can't run. You can't run. If we're gonna run, why are we not disposable? So that's when I realized, like, I think if I let those things bother me, I would get so damn frustrated because if we really want to go there, this is supposed to look this victory. The only reason it's a real loss for is because the score is not supposed to be 27-24. The score is supposed to be what it was last time they bought their ass down here. We got enough firepower and there's enough play calling for us to put 40 points. We don't need Cam to do 40. We've been putting up 40 when we're at our best. So then it's just like, damn, does our coordinator and our coach really that suck? Because y'all are basically telling me we won, but I'm like, real talk though, it really was a Corvette versus a Supra. Like we had the better engine, we had the athletes. So I know where your frustration comes from. But what I'm telling you is that if you think about it, it's gonna piss you off because they're never gonna do it with Mario here. The best thing we can do as and this is fucked up, right? How do you tell the people temper your hope? Don't give up hope, but temper down your hope.
That's
Stop
that's
so
bruh,
hard.
bruh.
This
Let me
nigga
tell
is not
you,
change.
dog, 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 dog. Let me tell you, that is I think this is the same place I was at last year. Don't get too high, right? ESPN, Bleacher Report, pay all the online everybody blogs. You know what I'm saying? Everybody podcast is gonna be Miami, 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 right? They're gonna talk about the catch from CJ Dan, which was an amazing catch, but it was a terrible throw. But it's football, and you need your football players to make plays. So I'm not gonna take that away. That was an amazing catch.
Amazing
But
catch.
but we keep hearing all of this, and what always comes back to bite us. We end up losing games we not supposed to. We're up so high, and we're just
Bro, we
overlooking.
almost lost this
This is
game.
this is what I've really seen. This is the biggest thing I've seen in Alabama. Kalen DeBoer versus Saban, and I'm seeing this with Miami. Miami, this and people thought this was a bad thing about Nick Saban. I kind of used to think about it too, but I was like, I see it now. Nick Saban wouldn't celebrate wins. Nick Saban would go out there and be like, we messed up here, we messed up here, we messed up here, we messed up here, we got to fix that. He wouldn't be like everybody else to be celebrating, oh, you just beat this team, you just beat that team. Nick Saban be like, man, no, we were fucking up on these different plays. We were fucking up here, 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 here. And what Miami typically does is, oh, we won. Let's just celebrate the victory. No, what we really need to do, you take the victory, right? You want to know. But what you really need to do is look at all the areas that need to be fixed and focus on, hey, this got to be fixed. 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 And this is how you hold the team accountable and don't let the team get too high in their head, because the head coach is not going out there saying, "Oh, this is such a great win for the program. We're rebranding the pro." No. He gonna go out there and say, "We got the victory, but I'm not satisfied." I see what Nick Saban was doing, because Nick Saban wasn't letting the players celebrate. Like, what the fuck you celebrating for? You missed a block on this play, and that could have cost us the game. You didn't catch this pass. You missed this tackle, and this could have cost us the game. Fuck that celebrating shit. We're gonna go out here and be perfect. And this is how we're gonna dominate and be a national title contender every single year. You can't accept nothing less than that. And I feel like if Miami wants to be that, if our fan base wants to be this national title contender, and we want to be in that national spotlight, we can't be like, well, we're just gonna overlook all of this shit. We overlook so much of it because we got the win. We don't overlook it when we lose, right? We all complain about all this stuff, but when we win, we just just be satisfied with the win. And that's how we end up getting caught, because we end up just getting comfortable with, oh, we got the win here. We got the win here. Nah, man, that shit shouldn't be like you said. We should have put up 40 against them.
Nah,
It should
really.
have been like 40-14.
If you look at all those
Should
series,
have been.
think about all the series. I could 3 of the series that you just ran straight like that. Come on, now we can't even have that. And then it's between the play calling alone, right? A better play calling alone accounts for the rest of those points and then just not being conservative. But I just think it's sad, like you said, no QB run, no tight end. What happens if he scrambled on it for at least 2 or 3 of them thirds? And then we know if you want to, when you play smash mouth football on this team, when we get inside the 5, you want to run it 4 times, I'll live and die with that. Every fucking time. Why? Because on one drive where we took up to 7 minutes, we like that. And even that drive was like, there's a thing, right? Like when you can score at will, Miami is never, even when we were great, we were a score fast team. Like we're still not this methodical because you have speed in South Florida and you don't fight your nature, right? If you fight your nature, it's like you can win, but now you're fighting against yourself. And so, yeah, no tight end. The fact that we had no tight end play to speak to your point, you should be mortified because of that. Because you're like, damn, a successful team. Don't tell me you didn't need them, because we can go back to where before last year when we weren't using our tight end and we had to have a critique. So it's like, damn, okay, you don't want the tight end and you needed a safety valve. Motherfucker, that's why you couldn't convert. Well, what if you ran 3 times and then threw it on 3rd time to the tight end? Come on, bro. You did it once and it worked. How you don't go back to it? And I know that bro, I don't know what you're telling the tight end people, but we keep getting raw tight ends. All right, we getting 4s, we getting straight 4s. It might be 1-3, but it's like, bruh, now you only want to throw to them when there's one in practice that you like. So the only thing that me and you and I think the rest of the fans can't see is, all right, cool. This could be based off of practice, right? You could make the argument that the tight end don't go as hard in practice than the other tight end did, right? But when you're searching for answers, you're not even recruiting people that are seeing that field that can at least perform when that number is called. So when you needed plays, I don't understand why the tight end was not all over this. And we're saying we won, but we probably, let's just say, fuck it, we had an extra touchdown, right? So you won 31. You always had that cushion. Yeah, but at the end of the day, when you needed answers, you started going to the tight end. And since ND wasn't looking for it in the first half, they're not prepared for it in the second half. They can't switch now, right? Because if you start game planning for him and go in the zone, the receivers underneath are going to kill you. These motherfuckers started going to receivers underneath, and you went to Lofton one time. So what happens if you go to Lofton and you add in the fucking QB run? Now the defense, even us at home, we don't know what you're going to do. So when I watched Florida State play, that shit was poetry in motion. And I'm not a Florida State fan at all, but I like Gus Malzahn. And will be lying if I didn't think that he was Lane Kiffin like. I would also be lying if I said that I didn't like Castellanos. And it's smart because he almost beat them last year. And I don't want to get too much into that because we'll discuss reaction video. But yeah, I just think if you're a fan, that what they showed me today actually helped me temper my expectations. And that's why I'm telling you, like, y'all can hope all y'all want to. We're going to get in tough games. They're going to play conservative. We're going to lose them fuckers. Matter of fact, just like I told you, we'll win this game. Florida State got our number this year. I think we can play them competitive but I'm like, if they do what they're supposed to do, you can't get mad when they beat us. It's simply superior play calling. And their defensive coordinator is like that too. Coaching will always doom us from getting to that plateau. Could we still make it in the playoffs? We do. And I'm going to tell you like this on some funny shit. If we can only lose to them, and let's say we go 10-2, if Florida State does what they're supposed to do, either the ACC has 3 teams and they let Clemson in, or they don't, because Clemson's gonna have 2 losses because they're probably gonna lose to Florida State. Because I think everybody, I ain't gonna lie. It's not that I want to drink the Kool-Aid, but I know who UM is, and in my heart, when we get there, as we get to each game, I'm gonna be like, look, y'all, I love y'all to death. But you see how we almost lost that game? Oh yeah, we finna be losing these games. It was a great victory because it was just a rivalry game, but against superior teams, which we don't have a whole bunch of, but we got to play Louisville, right? But if I can play Louisville this year, and I'm like, yeah, these motherfuckers could score. Guess what happens, bro? You can't play them conservative, and you don't got no Cam. And our coaching, yeah, boy, I think if Mario would at least let Sham Dawson do what he wants to do, she can get less pedestrian. But I think even Shannon Dawson, because I don't think Mario's telling you, well, don't use the QB run. Let's just say he used that one. The motherfuckers damn sure ain't tell you to not have no tight end plays. So yeah, you definitely left 14 to 21 points on the board. Shit wasn't supposed to be close. And the one thing I liked about Cam, and now we're seeing that, Cam was a Peyton Manning. The play wasn't to go to the tight end. Cam is going through all the progressions and he's catching people out there. And even if there's not, all he needs a little bit is a separation. I think I gave the receivers a lot of credit too. And we won't know anything the next game, but that third game, which is at USF,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, we're gonna really see a lot because they're better this year. They're improved, and you're gonna need the repertoire. Well, you needed the repertoire playbook now, but yeah, I don't know. I wondered that about Shannon for like the last 2 years, but with Cam, you couldn't see it because Cam is out there calling all the plays, and I do think that Carson Beck has autonomy to change the play at the line. I think coming in, he had that. So I know a little bit of that is on him. But the other thing, too, is like you said, that was an ill advised pass that worked out in that favor. He did that shit at Georgia. He had even though the receivers dropped a lot of shit, he threw a couple of wide ass. Remember, we used to talk shit about him. We had to temper it down because we was like, bro, who that was to? Who that was to? Man, like a deer in headlights. Some of that was receivers, but some of that was him, and rightly so. That throw that he threw let me know, he got a pick or two in him every game. He definitely got a pick. He gonna give you one pick. Oh yeah. So I love to catch, but if we let that shit simmer down and you a real you win podcast and you breaking this shit down, there go your pick right there. That's a pick. That's what I'm making. They got with double coverage. Shit might have been triple coverage. Okay. Nobody wants to remember the receiver who had his hands up who was like, damn, the motherfucker caught it. Even he was looking crazy. Okay. So that was for sure interception. For sure. And them niggas from Notre Dame, I bet they on their Ed Reed. They ain't getting too many points on offense. Them niggas want to take it back to the house if they can. All right. So nah,
shit,
man.
Yeah, man, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. But yeah, that was our take on the game. Great win, regardless. We got a lot to work on, but we're gonna take this and roll in the next week. Bethune Cookman, we're gonna hit y'all later in this week with more of our takes on just UM in the college football landscape. But we'll take it. We'll take it. I'm not gonna get up too high on this, but like you say, you move into week 2, 1-0. So we'll take it. But to the next time, it's your player partners for the bottom of the map.
From the bottom of the map.
We gone.
Gone.